I just again want to be able to say we're just so appreciative to have everyone here with us, to have the opportunity to have a space to discuss a little bit about junior year. There's a lot going on with that. We have through our presentation, our webinar, the opportunity to go through some of what this year entails. We'll have a lot of resources that are going to be provided to you during and after our webinar. So we want to make sure you know that. This is getting recorded. So just have that in the back of your mind in terms of question and answer and what we're going to be doing here, just so you're aware of that. Also, for those of us, I'll switch over language real quick for a translation announcement. Para los que necesitan la presentación en español, vas a ver una imagen de globo a donde puedes empujarlo y tenemos a alguien aquí para traducir la presentación en español para los papás que necesitan ese servicio. Just real quickly again, if we do need anybody translation, we have a little icon with the globe that you can press on, and then that'll be able to be presented in Spanish for those who need it. Let's see. And then, of course, last thing is that we will be able to do a little bit of Q&A in our comments section. So we can do that and be able to respond to some things that you guys want to do with the time we have remaining at the end of the presentation. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's go and begin the presentation. We're gonna go through kind of at the beginning a little discussion about counseling and our services, how we provide them this year, how we provide them last year, kind of in terms of the 4-year model we have, kind of like what we've done, what we're going to do, where we're going. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit at the beginning, talk a little bit about what is expected, as well as then we're going to transfer into like actual some of the services we provide. We'll also have the College Career Center discussing some of their services, also like some information around the application process and some details and logistics to kind of wrap around the entire set of services we provide here at Los Altos for junior year. Okay, so to begin with, right, we're going to talk about the counseling department. As you can see on the slide, we are lucky enough to have 7 counselors who are here to provide service and support for your students. The way we structure it here at Los Altos is that they are going to start with and continue on with your student through the 4 years to kind of navigate the journey from entering and transitioning from middle school. We are actually just doing the freshman check-ins right now, all the way to graduation. And we look at it as a very holistic process, looking at college and career, university stuff, and then as well as the socio-emotional and kind of next steps with career and vocational. So really trying to wrap around all avenues and supporting students in whatever goals they might have when they come to our school. For the next piece of services, we also have the College and Career Center. And we have our 2 staff members, it's Angela Price and Laura Duran, who staff are, and we're lucky to have those individuals to be supporting and servicing our students in the College Career Center. Angela Price, our college counselor, working a lot, well, obviously with all students, but really the junior and senior year, kind of navigating the college process, looking at choices, ways to support students in and out of the school, with what they're doing and applying to, and options they have. And then Laura Duran is the College Career Center coordinator, who will be looking at not just university and college, which is its own huge amount of services, but also looking at community services, the financial aid piece, lots of outside connections that we try to make with our students. Again, not just looking at the academic, looking at volunteer pieces or just doing things that they're just passionate about. Laura Duran is in charge of those pieces and bringing that all together in our College and Career Center. Really great space. If there's one thing I'll start with a recommendation, number 1 of a few in this presentation, is please have your students come drop by and visit that space so they can get guidance, support, and get questions answered as they go through their 4 years. For our next slide, let's talk a little bit about where we've been when we talk about our counseling services. For the sophomore year, we have a variety of models and service ways that we meet with students. So that might be one-on-one in our offices, that might be in group spaces, right? That might be grade level where we have an entire class talking about what they need to do and doing large format presentations. And so for our sophomores, right, we did a little bit of everything with them last year. In the spring in particular, right, we had some small group work where we talked about the personal narrative. What does that mean? That is a time when we got to have a conversation about where students in their second year, right, see themselves in terms of where they've been, where they want to go. An initial practice, right, of reflective activities where we kind of stop ourselves, look in the mirror, and see kind of where things are at, and why we do it, right? The intention for that activity is that these are the kind of practices that as we get older and start looking at what experiences we're having and why we do it, and also like where we want to adjust or move forward with what we've done. Those are really important things that we want to start doing earlier in high school so we prepare ourselves for that kind of reflective activity, which we'll see in college applications, personal statements, and even financial aid and scholarship applications. So trying to start that early is one of the things we try to do with that activity. Other things we cover as always, right? Our foundational stuff for counseling is in those meetings and conversations with our sophomores. Career exploration, what we're going to do next, where to look for other resources and experiences for what we might want to do professionally, vocationally. Graduation status, where are we at as a sophomore, A through G, right? Making sure we're on track for university, CSU, UC, in-state, out-of-state, all that kind of stuff. And then the other piece that's really critical for us as we move through our high school process is looking at course selection as 10th graders now moving on to the junior experience and where we're at again with our academics and what we want to be taking on for our junior year. So that's a little bit about 10th grade. Um, Now for junior year, we are going to then go on to another kind of activity that I think is really great. Looking at an interview, which is our way of, as counselors saying, we're not going to go through our checklist of the application process. Let's start with talking about yourself. Let's practice describing who you are. Let's talk about kind of your own goals, where you're at, with a little bit of time left before senior year, thinking about the lists and all those kind of questions you have. But let's frame it in a way that's not so to-do based, but really open-ended, and thinking about all the opportunities and experiences we can still have, and where we've been, being reflective in our process now a year later, and making that activity kind of the core piece of the experience. We found a lot of good information around that, a lot of really authentic narrative that comes from students, because we're trying to stay away from where they're going to end up and just what they're doing. And so that really helps us when we want to connect that to our college application process, the essays, our letters of rec. That's where some really great information comes out. On top of that, after that, we have, of course, again, making sure we have A through G discussed, our graduation status, where we're at with that in the third year. And then we have a great transition where then we can then go into the College Career Center, talk about some next steps there. Also great space right now that we're in the third year. We're actually in the space. We're getting to see it, feel it. Laura Duran, Angela Price come in and do their thing, talking about all the amazing services as we're gearing up, right? It's junior year, we're preparing for senior year, and it's just a nice activity to be able to service the juniors with those activities. Okay, so we talked a little bit about that major activity. The other things we're going to talk about in the junior year is just talking about the high points, the main points we want to also hit in terms of that activity. But then in the entire year, we're looking at 21st century skill development, right? How we work together, how we communicate, how we work with our staff on campus, the extracurricular involvement, right? Another piece we need to add to the layers of what's happening for junior year. It can be a lot in the third year, right? Preparing for exiting in senior year. So we also, obviously, as counselors, are talking about balance, well-being. I discuss it in my conversation with students, as you know, how much you take on, how much you don't. And as we're getting older, there are more and more responsibilities we're given. So our pie of time is kind of taken up, and where do we put the time in, and where do we prioritize? We can't do it all, and trying to keep us grounded in the wellness space, still prioritizing what's important for us and getting things done that we feel passionately about. Talked a little bit about all these other points prior in the prior slide, but making sure that you see that these are the areas that we're really focusing on for juniors as we prepare for ourselves for the senior year. Just something that just a good reference point for parents as we are navigating high school for juniors, right? We have the graduation status. This is something that is printable. This is what the actual document looks like in our Aries system. Anyone has parent access, you can look at that document currently in real time. It's the grad status report, right, which will tell you what is required on the left-hand side. Okay. Excuse me, what has been already completed. That is the second column. What we are currently taking, and then consequently, right, one thing left in terms of the far right column, we go left to right, is what is left. So it's just something we wanted you to be able to reference, to look at, be able to review with student at home to see where we're at. We are looking at this document. We are constantly referring back to this as we go through our check-ins through all years. And of course, specifically junior year, to make sure we're on track for graduation. So we just want to make sure you saw that document. The other piece of this that's just important that we have here noted is that when it comes to academics, there is a difference when we talk about requirements and what's necessary for two different systems. One side of it, we have graduation requirements. And with that, we want to make sure that we have at least D minus or higher in order to get credits for the high school process. We're looking at college requirements. The minimum is a C minus. And really, folks, that's just something we just want to continue to emphasize. If we can get away from the D's, right, and really hit the C's and above, we are going to be college eligible. We can work on that through a variety of ways: summer school, other options to remediate courses. But just want to highlight that's one major thing we want to make sure we do. It is important to know the difference between the D and C. And I say simply with my students, just make sure you get a C and above, so we don't have to worry about any of that, and continue to make sure that you hit those marks to progress in terms of high school. I see there's a question around how do we get this report. So it is within, well, there's a couple ways. I'll say if you are a little confused and aren't sure how to get it, you're always welcome to come into our office and we can get those to you. But if you have access to your parent account on Aries, it will be under the grade section of that account under graduation status, right? Which I believe is right underneath transcript when you look under that grade tab, and then you'll be able to pull that up and look at what's there for your student. That's the most popular way for most families to go ahead and check that out if you want to do that at home. Okay, so with that being said, I'm gonna end my piece here, and then Mr. Mies Parker is going to take over next on the next section on our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Loreen. So I'm going to start by talking about when your students are able to meet with us, our availability as counselors. So our drop-in times are brunch, lunch, and during ACT, which is our academic collaboration time. Or if those times do not work for a student, they can reach out to us. A lot of students like to contact us via email, and we can let them know a time that works for the both of us to be able to check in. A lot of students also are very busy, so they'll send us their questions through email, which we're totally happy to respond to. And if there's something that requires a little bit more detailed response or some nuance, we do encourage students to come in when we're responding to them through those emails. For parents, for caregivers, you're welcome to reach out to us via email or phone. And if you would like to request an in-person appointment or a Zoom appointment, you can also reach out to us to set that up. All right, I want to talk a little bit about some of the alternative education programs that we have within our district. We're very fortunate that we have in my opinion, a space for every student. So I know that all of your students are currently juniors, and the programs that you see on the screen primarily are for junior and senior students. So this would be something to consider for your student to be able to join as a senior, and something that they can talk to their counselor about further in depth, especially during the time of course selection. So the first two are programs located physically at Foothill College. Students in middle college would be taking two high school level courses taught by high school teachers, and that would be their humanities courses, so their history as well as their English course. And then the remainder of the classes that they're taking are actually Foothill College classes. So they would be able to fulfill their requirements while also getting college credits. And this is a perfect opportunity for students who might want a smaller setting in terms of having a smaller cohort of high school students while still having access to those community college classes. College Now is a bit different. It is still at Foothill, but the main difference is that every single course that they're taking is at the college level. And so this is for our more independent students who may not need as much guidance because the person there, Mr. McHenry, who is over the program, is there, of course, to help students with setting things up, but not going to be there as accessible as they would, for example, here at the high school. Students can earn a number of college credits that would be able to follow them once they enroll full-time as a college student following high school graduation. And then Freestyle Academy is for our students who are interested in the arts. There are three pathways: animation, design, as well as film. It's a really amazing campus. They have state-of-the-art technology and equipment. So that's a really fabulous option for our students who are creative or just interested in those pathways. And Alta Vista High School is our alternative high school. And if you have been in the district for a long time, there's some new features that you may not be aware of. The biggest one is that students are able to take classes that are A through G eligible, meaning those classes would be eligible to count towards the UC and CSU entrance requirements. So for a student who might need a bit more of a flexible day or smaller school setting, that could totally be an option for them. So if your student or you have questions or any interest in one of these programs, definitely reach out to your student school counselor. So in addition to email, there are lots of ways that we stay in touch with our school community. So one being this presentation right now, and we do have recordings of our grade level presentations available on the school counseling website, which is a section on the Los Altos High School website. You can also keep track of what's happening and what's going on through our school counseling department Google Calendar, also available on the website. You'll find information to come pretty soon as we get closer to course selection time on the different courses that are going to be available for students next year, as well as the course catalog. And then a variety of resources, whether it be social emotional related or college entrance related, or related. And we also have a section in Dr. Ranieri's Eagle News that's sent out once a week, and we make announcements through Parent Square, which is maybe how some of you found out about this webinar tonight. And then the contact information for all of the counselors is available on the website as well. So we are just one of many people on campus here and ready and available to support your students. So in addition to us, of course, your students' teachers are available. You have your admin team. Every student is assigned an assistant principal based off of their grade level. The College and Career Center is available and ready to help and has lots of programming that you'll hear about in just a bit. We have the Tutorial Center, which is available for students to receive free tutoring on campus. And our library is another space where students can use even extended hours to be able to get some of their work done before and after school. Our Wellness Center is available during school hours for students to use either during class time if they need a little time to just decompress or get some time to support themselves with it's fully staffed. And we also have school-based mental health counseling, and students can either self-refer using the form that's available on the website, or if you would like to refer your student, you're able to do that as well. And then all around campus, you'll find these LAHS Connect posters, which have really easy to access QR codes for the referral forms that I just mentioned, school counseling information, including the alpha sort and knowing who is assigned to your student as their school counselor. On the website, there's a student frequently used links document, and so that also has some really quick to access info on there. I'll just mention the counseling section since that's my area of expertise, but if a student is interested in taking a course outside of the district, for example, there's a link that's available right here to know the guidelines as well as the application form, or sorry, the approval form. Also a quick link to the school counseling calendar that I mentioned before. Um, really easy form to show you the graduation requirements versus those entrance requirements for the UC and CSU, and just a variety of other information, including the weekly bulletin that Mr. N might mention later on, but I always like to plug it. It's got lots of great info, especially as your students are juniors. They can find out which colleges they're visiting, they can find out different programs that are happening, etc. And then additional information, I mentioned Parent Square as well as the Eagle Community News. And I just also want to remind parents that we have this wonderful platform, Naviance, that students, especially in junior year, we're encouraging them to get familiar with, because that's what we're going to be having them use next year as they're applying for their colleges and how we'll submit their supplemental materials. And so with that, I'm going to pass it along to Ms. Duran, who will take it from here.
Yes, thank you so much for the introduction and for all that great information. So we are so fortunate to have two full-time staff members working in the College and Career Center. And so we just want to give a big shout out to the MBLA High School Foundation for supporting our work, and for everybody that contributes to the foundation. I know all participation points are very much appreciated and valued. So just wanted to give a big shout out there. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so just looking at some of the resources that we're able to provide, we have both online and in-person options. We've already mentioned Naviance, which is a great tool. If any parent or guardian would like access to their own login, I can set that up. If you just send me an email to Laura Duran and include your student or students' names, then I can activate your account or merge your account if you've had an older student that maybe is graduated. We also are super fortunate to have many college representatives want to come to our campus to meet with our students, answer questions, provide information, and over 60 colleges come for those visits between the end of August and the beginning of November. And so your student definitely has time to sign up for college rep visits if they haven't done so already. We also provide scholarship information about volunteering, internships, and jobs. We have the MBLA College Counseling Handbook, both digital on the website and physical in the College and Career Center. For the junior class, we have new versions coming out soon, and we'll definitely alert you when those come out. But for now, we have a digital copy that's nearly identical, just with some minor changes. So if you would like to start looking at that now, you can find that on the website. Or your student can come into the College and Career Center and pick up a physical copy and take a look at it. We also have a YouTube channel. Every year, we have something called Countdown for College. That'll be happening in the spring, but we record those sessions from years prior, and other webinars that we might host are on there. So if you have a topic that you're curious about, you might just kind of scroll through and see if you find something on our YouTube channel. And then we do have an Instagram account, admittedly not as active as maybe in a few years ago when we were just kind of getting back online with everything. But if something gets posted there, it's because we think it's really important for students and families to know about. So we encourage you to follow that account for information we think is really relevant and important. And then we also have ACT workshops. So reminder, on Wednesdays and Fridays, we have that 50-minute academic period where students can choose where they go on campus for support. And our workshops include all of these topics and more. Sometimes we have college rep visits during that time. And all of this is available to students through the weekly bulletin and some other communication tools that I'll go on to tell you about, I believe, on the next slide. Okay, no, this is our hours, but I will get to those other ways that you can find that information. We know that you are our best partners in working with your student, and so we are asking parents and families to please encourage your student to come visit us physically in the College and Career Center before school, during brunch, lunch, if your student has a free period, or by appointment, and to please reserve their seats for ACT in Minga. This slide, I missed this one, but Minga is the app that we're using this year for students to reserve their spot for those ACT sessions. And to please use Naviance, use our website, use some of the linked resources that we have in the physical resources in our space. We know that there's so much confusion out there or misinformation, so please just send them to us. And Ms. Price and I really work to try to create a calm environment that's fact-based, that's reassuring and honest. And so we hear a lot of different things come through, but we can at least address those head on versus having your student maybe worry about something that they really don't need to worry about. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. And this is a screenshot of the College Counseling Handbook. It's very comprehensive, very useful. I think it's important for everyone just to flip through it to make sure that they're aware of some of the language that's often used, what opportunities or types of schools might be out there that maybe you're not aware of. So if you go through every single page and you know every single thing on every single page, that also gives you a sign that, hey, I am actually pretty well versed in this and I'm set up to go into this process. But even people who have gone through it before might find something new. And so I think it's useful just to flip through the handbook and confirm that nothing has changed, or that if something new has come up, that you're aware of it. Okay, so on the LHS website, the College and Career Center has a dedicated page. On that page, we have several sub pages and many links. One of the quick sub pages is events. If you click on that, it takes you to a page where you can view the College and Career Center events calendar. So for example, this evening presentation was on there with the link to the Zoom meeting. If a college rep is coming to visit, you can see who's coming, what time did they come, and if a student, let's say, wasn't able to attend, they could view the email contact for that person. So that's one way that's visible to both parent guardians, community members, and students through this College and Career Center events calendar. We also communicate through a weekly bulletin that is sent out directly to students every Friday through Student Square. We also list our events and activities in the daily announcements. So if you read those or click on that in the main school website, you'll see our section there. We also send emails sometimes out to target groups of students for specific things or opportunities. We have the College and Career Center Instagram account, which is open to everybody. And I do encourage you all to check out the College and Career Center website and just click around on some of those pages. It's our way to try to make information as transparent as possible. For example, the University of California provides a ton of information from the Office of the President, and we just have links to a lot of that data. So if you are just kind of curious, you can go on, look into a specific section, and then see these live updated links for access to different information that we think would be interesting to folks. And then a reminder that we will be having the Countdown to College event this spring. And it's a great opportunity for you to join live into various sessions on topics that might be of interest to you, and then have the opportunity to ask your questions live with the presenter versus watching the recordings later. All right, so 11th grade. And your student maybe has started, if not, maybe they're beginning the college search and using Naviance as a tool. The Naviance is so useful because it's a window for us to see maybe what your student is considering or thinking about, and it can really speed up our work with them. So encouraging your student, if they are thinking about a specific school or if they already know that a school is of interest, to click that heart button, which likes the college and saves it in their list so we can get an idea of maybe what they're looking at. They can also start thinking through what is going to be required, what are these deadlines for a particular school or set of schools, and then thinking, okay, how do I work backwards from that? The College Counseling Handbook also has a really great timeline in the back that they can use. Now is a good time for students to start thinking about what are different careers that they might want to pursue, and then working backwards, what major might prepare them for that type of career. And that is also work that we started in 10th grade in those spring visits. So hopefully they've continued to think about that and are shifting their focus a bit now. Building and updating a professional looking resume and or activities list. Every college application most college applications, I should say, the CSU doesn't, will ask for an activities list. And so if a student can start working on that now, it might be a big time save later, because they can put everything on there that they've done since 9th grade till now, and then they're just incrementally adding activities that might be coming up between now and the point of application, but they're not trying to do that on top of everything else that's required in the fall. And then registering to attend those college rep visits, as I mentioned, and then just really understanding that what is required to apply to a specific school might vary. And so having some idea of the schools that are going to be on their list can help them figure out what exactly they need to do to prepare. And we're, of course, here to help them with that. Okay, go to the next slide. There's going to be both personal and academic information that they will be sharing on their college applications. If a student, so it's helpful for students to reflect on what that's going to look like and make notes if there's anything that's going to need additional explanation, and just doing the work of self-reflection, because on the college app, they're really going to be asked to put themselves and their experience into words for somebody that doesn't have the opportunity to meet them in person. And it's just, that can be quite overwhelming for somebody who's 16, 17, 18 years old if they haven't started to think about it in that way. So now is a great time to start that self-reflection if they haven't already. Also looking towards how they spend their time outside of academics. Are they in what are they doing with their time? Is it an official extracurricular activity or a volunteer activity, or maybe it's a passion project or just some other interest or hobby that they have? And then there's bullet points here to kind of give some examples. Our students tend to be quite engaged in doing interesting things, but consolidating that and sort of writing it all down. Oftentimes students are doing things that they forget to even mention. And if they don't mention it, no one will know that they're doing that. So maybe helping them think through that, like, oh yeah, what about your succulent garden that you've created from scratch? Oh, I didn't even think that was something that colleges would be interested in. Yeah, absolutely. You've spent hundreds of hours on that. And it's pretty cool what you've created. So that's another place where you can be a partner as a parent to give insight to things that maybe they don't think are worth mentioning, but that you know that they spend a lot of time on or have an interest in. And then just please encourage your students to read that weekly bulletin, because there are job opportunities coming up, volunteer opportunities, lots of webinars or community-based opportunities that we don't spam them with that information. We just send it out consolidated on Fridays. And so we really would love students to scan that document and then follow up on any opportunities so they don't miss out. Okay, we can go to the next slide. In the spring, is when the students usually ask their 11th grade teachers for academic letters of recommendation for college. And we as a department are looking at providing a little bit more of a structure, an optional structure for teachers to follow and a timeline. But roughly speaking, you can think after spring break, that will have given the student many months in the teacher's class. They're getting closer to the end of the term, the end of the year, and they can think, which academic teachers do I think could really reflect how I've grown this year, or can speak to how I show up in class, how I'm as a student. So at most, students would need 2 academic letters of recommendation and their counselor letter of recommendation. For some programs, there might be a specific requirement for an art teacher or for a music teacher. But that's where knowing what colleges you're thinking about or what program you're thinking about can be very helpful to identify if there's a something different than that sort of general recommendation to academic teachers and a counselor. In the springtime, we will be hosting workshops and getting students thinking about those essays and personal statements, the short response questions. The foundation also generously supports summer college counseling work that we do with students. Last year, we piloted a early summer boot camp, which 100% of the students that participated said that they would recommend that we offer it again next year. And they were very enthusiastic about how that helped them get started in this process. So we're going to plan to offer that again in the week after the school year ends, to help students get started before they calm down, sort of recollect and charge those batteries. Just like, here's what you need to do between now and the application. And so we will send out that information this spring when we have dates and times available and signups. Okay. Your student might have just taken the SAT or the PSAT on our school-wide testing day, which is amazing. Again, thank you, Foundation, for providing that opportunity for our students on campus. Next year, senior year, if things continue as they have, they will have an opportunity to retake the SAT as a senior. And so working with Ms. Price and I to figure out, do you need to take another SAT between now and then? Do you even need to take a test at all? Which schools are requiring those? Which schools are still test optional? Which schools are test free? And making an individualized plan. The media has definitely focused on the schools that have gone back to being test required, but the vast majority of colleges continue to be test optional or test free. And so we're really talking about a very small percentage of schools that have gone back to requiring testing. But of course, if that one of those schools is on your students list, they must have testing and know what's required to apply to those schools. A big reminder that AP test registration is due November 1st by 11:59 p.m. And so please confirm with your student that they know the process for that and that you are signing up for those exams, because it's really, I'd say, almost impossible afterwards to order those tests. So please confirm with your student that they're registered for all of the exams that they want to take this spring. And Lorena Rodriguez Daniel is our new testing coordinator. She's wonderful. And that is the person that you would want to contact if you have questions around the AP test registration. Right. And then I kind of got ahead of myself a minute ago, but the college testing landscape has sort of stayed stable within the last year, which is the schools that are test free have continued to be test free. Some of the schools that were test optional during the pandemic have reverted back to being test required, but that's a very small number of schools. And so if you or your student have questions around this language of test free, test optional, test required, we have information on the website. We'd also be happy to chat with you. There's also a webinar from Countdown to College last spring where one of our webinars was about the testing landscape. And so I encourage you to watch that recording if you want to learn more about the testing landscape. And then preparation and timeline. We want students to be thinking about the schools that they might want to be applying to, looking at their test scores if they have PSAT results. There's free test prep information that they can access. And if they are going to go forward with testing, to sort of identify the dates that they would like to test based on their own schedule, and then reserving those seats so that you're not driving hours away or needing to like fly somewhere to take the test. Ideally, students can test hyper locally. Okay. All right, so another slide. We often talk about how you're going to pay for college. And it's important as a family to think through this important aspect. Every year we have students that get into some amazing schools, but then unfortunately the financial component doesn't line up, and that school no longer becomes an option. And that can be very disheartening for a student because they did the work of applying, they got in, but then the financial package is not feasible for them and their family. And so by doing a little bit of work now, you can help your student apply to schools that are within range for what your family can afford to pay. 2 financial aid forms, students that can complete depending on the student's status. There's the FAFSA or the California Dream Act application. And in the next slide, which I'm not quite ready for, we'll show a visual for how you can figure out which form your student would complete. There's another layer, which is the CSS profile. So you might hear out and about like, oh, no, I won't qualify for anything for the FAFSA. That is a federally based sort of standard number. The CSS profile takes into consideration our zip code, the cost of living for our area, and some other factors. It asks significantly more questions than the FAFSA does. And that is a form used by some, mostly private schools, but some out-of-state public schools, and for those schools to provide institutional aid. So that's where you, if your student is applying to schools that are on that list, in addition to the FAFSA, they would look for the CSS profile to complete the financial aid package for your family. Other types of financial aid that are out there, loans, which you do have to pay back, and with interest. You have grants. Those are usually free, but it can depend on how often those are renewable. And then same with scholarships, which is free money, but it can really depend on if it's a one-time gift or if it's renewable over multiple years. And I think the important thing to share is, I think in the past, scholarships maybe could have closed a gap that existed, but now with the high cost of college, scholarships are more like assisting, but oftentimes don't close like a large gap. It's very rare to see a scholarship that's over $10,000, for example. And even those $10,000 scholarships are pretty rare and very competitive to get, and usually go for students that have very high demonstrated financial need. So just keeping some of that in mind, but we do have a whole other webinar just on financial aid in our Cash for College evenings. So I'm going to stop so Ms. Price has enough time to go through all of her amazing slides and really bring it home for us. This slide will be shared out with you. That's what I mentioned, where how you can see if it's FAFSA or CATA for your family. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Ms. Price. Thank you. Ms. Price, you just are muted.
Hi, Ms. Price, we're still not able to hear you.
Uh-oh. Okay, Ms. Price, why don't you keep troubleshooting your audio, and then if you can get audio back on, then I'm going to stop talking, but I'm going to cover a couple of your slides just to help you out while you're trying to maybe logging out, logging back in. Okay, these are Ms. Price's slides, so everyone forgive me if I'm definitely not the star of the show. Ms. Price is, so I'll do my best here. Ms. Price, College Advisor, she has actually moved up her 11th grade visits. They historically had started at the beginning of February, end of January, but with feedback from students and families, they actually said, hey, it would be great if we could start this conversation sooner, so that way we have an idea of what colleges our student might be applying to, and that would help us determine what a senior year course schedule might look like in conjunction with the school counseling team. And so that way students aren't meeting with their school counselor, picking classes, then they're having a college advising meeting and then saying, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I needed to take X, Y, or Z class, then having to go back to the school counselor to say, can you please change all of the classes that we previously discussed? And so the takeaway is 11th graders can and should sign up to meet with Ms. Price now, and those visits will start in November. So Ms. Price is going to start meeting with families and students starting in November for a one-to-one college advising meeting. The link is available online on the College and Career Center website under our information, and then there's a link there. It's also gone out in the student announcements. I will put it out again, and in Mr. Ranieri's Eagle News. So we'll put that link back out, but just know that it's live now, and those meetings will start in November. So these are the topics that Ms. Price will be covering. Again, looking at Naviance. So if your students added some things there, that would be great. A review of the transcript, looking at a college list for academic fit, social fit, financial fit, discussing those college admissions tests for the schools that the student is considering, or maybe it's backwards. The student says, you know what, I'm really not a great test taker. That's not where I want to spend my time or energy. And maybe Ms. Price is helping you come up with a school that is a test-free, or a list of schools that are test-free. So you can just say, I'm not going to apply to schools that require that. And you'd have plenty of options there. Reviewing a timeline, starting to think about possible essay topics, discussing those letters of recommendation, and then again, that financial aid. And in our country, in our world, we have lots of college options, lots of opportunities. So if we're just looking domestically in our state, we have 113 community colleges. We have 22 California State Universities, or CSUs. That's an updated number as of this year. Cal Poly and CSU Maritime have merged into one campus. So in the past, it's been 23, but now we are 22 campuses. The University of California has 9 undergraduate campuses. There are private and out-of-state colleges galore. So over 4,000 options just in the United States alone before we even look to international options. So if your student would like to go to college, there is a college for your student, and we will make sure that they have options. So here is a graphic of the California State Universities. As I mentioned, it's now 22 campuses, with the Maritime and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo merging into one campus, even though they have the 2 locations and are offering 2 distinct sets of majors. It's one application for all of these campuses. Students can start that application on October 1st, and they can actually submit October 1st through the end of November. So we will work with them. It's about a 45-minute application, maybe an hour, but the thing that takes the longest is researching campuses and then first and second choice major. The baseline GPA is a 2.5. They need to have their A through G coursework completed. Test scores will not be considered for admission. And so that is the CSU slides. Okay. And then the UCs, here we have an image of those 9 undergraduate campuses. Also one application. That application opens on August 1st every year, but students definitely start working on this before August 1st. There are something called personal insight questions. That's one of the components of the application. We often abbreviate it as PIQs. So you might hear your student or their friends saying PIQ, PIQ. That's the personal insight question for the University of California application. They are tasked to answer 4 of the 8 prompts. They have 350 words for each of those prompts. And the prompts have stayed the same for the last several years. And for the UC campuses that have visited us this year, they've said it's working for those schools. They don't see any changes on the horizon. So it would be perfectly fine for current juniors to look at those prompts now and say, hey, if we fast forward a year, would I be able to answer 4 of these prompts? If yes, amazing. If no, maybe now's a good opportunity to take on a little bit more hands-on experience in certain areas or reflect differently to make sure that there's enough to write about for 4 of the prompts. There's a minimum admissions GPA of 3.0. The UC is looking at coursework. They're looking at extracurricular activities. They give students 20 spaces to say what they do with their free time and how they've been engaged. And then they also have those PIQs. So it's really the personal insight questions, the activities list, and then their coursework. And then students can actually submit the application between October 1st and the end of November, although they can create their account on August 1st. All right, private colleges. Many private colleges use a singular application platform called the Common Application. There's now over 1,000 schools that use that, and those are both domestic and international. So students can create an account now. They can enter their personal or academic information. It will roll over from this year to next year. The only thing that doesn't roll over is any writing. So they should not write essays in the Common App now or supplemental essays. They should work in a Google Doc or some other system and then cut and paste it in after August 1st of going into their senior year. So it's perfectly fine for students to create a Common App account now. They can research schools there. They can look at what the supplementals are for this year, but they should just be writing those outside of the actual Common App because writing will not roll over. Admissions criteria varies by school, but usually those colleges are really looking at both the academic weighted, which students report, but they're also looking at the unweighted GPA. They're looking at letters of recommendation, as we mentioned earlier. They're looking at supplemental essays. And then if testing required, they were looking at that. If it's optional, that's where it becomes more of a strategy. If your student is scoring within the middle 50% for that particular school, maybe they do choose to send their scores. But if they're under that middle 50, maybe they choose not to apply with test scores. And if they're over the middle 50, then yes, they probably would also want to apply with those test scores. Okay. So with that, I think not to Miss Price's level, but I did cover the slides, and we just, again, would really like to thank the MVLA Foundation for allowing Miss Price and I to do the work that we love to do with your students and you of the families, and being able to communicate with the different colleges and get up-to-date information, build those relationships, which just wouldn't be possible if we didn't have the staffing that we have. So a huge thank you to the foundation. And with that, I'm just like to remind everyone to, if you have questions, to please put them in the Q&A, and we're gonna spend the next 7 minutes responding to any questions that you might have. So please use the Q&A and we can go from there.
While we're waiting for more questions, I see there was a question about requesting meetings with Ms. Price. And so again, just a reminder, that should be a request made by your student, and that's available on the College and Career Center section of the website. And since I'm sharing, I'm not able to copy and paste it, but if any of the other panelists have easy access, feel free.
I just dropped it in.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm not seeing any oh, there we go. Yes, so that question was can parents come to those appointments with Ms. Price? The answer is yes. Parents are welcome to attend with their student. And then just a reminder, this webinar is recorded or being recorded, and it's going to be uploaded very shortly to the LHS counseling website, as well as these slides in both English and Spanish. Thank you, Ms. Garcia, for your work on translating the slides. Really appreciate that. There was a question about our College Career Center handbook. So we have an updated version offer or available to students every year, thanks to the MVLA Foundation. So the newest version has not yet been printed, but those will be ready for the junior interviews with the counselors. And so those again will begin in January. But you can also access the digital version of the most recent one that's been printed and available on our website, both the counseling website and the College and Career Center website. Same information with just maybe a few updates that'll come in the printed version later on this school year. All right, just giving one more moment for any other questions that might be coming about. When will the printed version be ready? So again, that one is going to be sent home with your junior once they come to their junior interview with their school counselor. Yes, I know parents, counselors alike, we love like a hard copy. Students, maybe they're more into the PDFs, and so we've got that for them, but the hard copy they'll be bringing home in Q3, which is January, February, March. All right, well, thank you all so much for joining us. Very appreciative. And oh, so Miss Price, are you able to address, there's no times in November with Miss Price, but I believe that's going to be opening up pretty soon.
It might be full. It
Okay.
might be, her November availability might have booked up at this point. So maybe looking forward to future months, because we did already publish we sent this already out to students to sign up. So that the November slots might have been filled.
And no need to worry, every student is going to have that opportunity to meet with Miss Price. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks.
And Miss Price's visits will continue in December and January and into the spring. So definitely progress into future months on that link. And come by. You don't need an appointment to come by and just check in with us. Yeah.
Yes, every time we see a junior, we are encouraging them to go to the College and Career Center, sometimes even walking them over. All right. Well, thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us all. And again, please do keep in touch as you have questions. Take care. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.